Nothing like a little Bruce Springsteen bringing us back here before a Big Five matchup. Temple-Villanova tonight over at the Pavilion. And let's go out to the phone lines right now and welcome in one of the best college basketball insiders in the country, and that's Jon Rothstein from CBS. Jon, Zach Gelb here, Temple Sports Hour. How are you?
Zach, never better, man. Thanks for having me, and always good to hear a little Springsteen in the morning.
No doubt about it. Are you a big Springsteen fan? I was at the show a few weeks ago over at Citizens Bank.
I wouldn't say I'm big. I'd say on these long car rides I have up and down I-95, I'd say that, his greatest hits and The Rising could frequent my CD player, but I wouldn't say big. I'd like to think I have a wide genre of musical taste.
Well, since you're on here in Philadelphia, I heard that you're a big Sylvester Stallone fan. Do you like the Rocky movie?
Let me just put it this way. I have 4 pictures of Stallone up in my apartment, 4 of which that will never come down from the wall.
I want to hear it right now. Give me your best. Yo, Adrian!
No, we got to do that off the air, man. Come on. So there's a Big Five game tonight. Come on.
You did talk to Dunphy this week, and I cover the team for WHIP, Philly's #1 college radio station, and I got that sense that Dunphy isn't all happy with the way his squad's looked the last 5 games.
Well, Coach Dunphy told me on Monday when we spoke that he likes his team. He doesn't know if he loves his team yet, but I think there's hope and there's optimism that this Temple team can play at the level that they played at the last couple of years, and that's a level that's really been synonymous with the elite teams in the A-10. And, tonight's going to be a great test because Temple, as we know, has 4 or 5 veteran players that have been through the gamut, but some of the more integral components on this team, players like Will Cummings, their sophomore point guard, and Anthony Lee, somebody who's still really only in their 2nd year of playing tangible minutes, will have to produce at a high level on the road if Temple is to get a win. So there's a lot of fascinating storylines coming up tonight.
The thing that concerns me with this Temple team is they rely too much on the jump shot and the three-point ball with Jake O'Brien and Dalton Pepper. And you saw when Kentucky was in the tournament a few years ago with John Wall, who now plays with the Wizards. The reason they lost that big-time game in the tournament was because they weren't able to get the outside shot going. And, I'm not going to compare Temple to Kentucky because the talent's just obviously different. But does Temple outside shot concern you a little bit this early in the season?
I don't think they shot the ball the percentage that they hoped to shoot it, obviously, through the first 5 games, but I do think that's going to change as Jake O'Brien gets more comfortable. He becomes more of a threat. But I think the positive thing for Temple is both Scooty Randall and Khalif Wyatt haven't shot the ball well. They haven't shot the ball as accurately as they're capable, and the Owls are still 5-0. So, you can be a glasses-half-full guy or glasses-half-empty guy. If I'm a glasses-half-full type of guy right now, I like the fact that the Owls are 5-0 and have a real big week coming up, starting tonight against Villanova and, of course, Saturday against Duke.
We're talking to Jon Rothstein. And, John, Khalif Wyatt, you just mentioned him a moment ago. It just feels like when there's a big game, he always brings his best to the table.
Fran Dunphy told me that Khalif Wyatt is a guy who doesn't look like an elite player, but he's the guy at the YMCA that everybody picks first when they're picking teams. He's got an old-school game, a game that's really deceptive when you think about all the different things he can do on the basketball court. The biggest thing, though, that I really enjoyed early from Khalif Wyatt is the way he's distributing. He's really having a terrific season so far in terms of getting his teammates baskets. That's something you really haven't always seen with Khalif Wyatt.
And also in the final 5 minutes of that Wagner game, he was absolutely incredible. You're going to need him in that final 5 minutes as well down the stretch tonight going up against Villanova.
Without question. If there is going to be a situation tonight where Temple needs a basket late, you better believe that Khalif Wyatt is going to be the player who has the ball in his hands for Temple. But, to be honest with you, I think that, where Temple has a distinct advantage in this game is experience. Villanova is not an experienced team. They're a work in progress. And, one thing that I think really could be interesting is the matchup at point guard between Will Cummings and Ryan Arcidiacono. Ryan Arcidiacono was terrific early on against Marshall, had an unbelievable game and what was a great win for Villanova, but the adjustments that teams have made defensively has slowed his process, and really Villanova has struggled since that game.
You talk about experience. One player like for the Owls tonight, and he hasn't been starting, but he's been coming off the bench and been getting a plethora of minutes, is T.J. DeLeo. You have to imagine he has a big game tonight as well.
Well, one of the things Coach Dunphy talked about was really bringing Will Cummings along slowly, and because he has a player like T.J. DeLeo, it's easier to make that transition for Cummings an incremental one. T.J. DeLeo has been a very valuable role player for Temple for a number of years, and that's continued so far this year, and it will continue unless Will Cummings is ready to play 30, 31 minutes at a high level at the point guard spot.
Going back to Khalif Wyatt. We all know what happened down in the summer over at Atlantic City with him, the whole scenario that went down. I talked to him at Media Day. He said he's most curious to see what the fans come about with, especially on the road in the Big 5 game. Do you think he could handle the crowd?
No question. And college athletes are in a much bigger spotlight now today than maybe 10 years ago because of social media, because of all the different things and avenues there are to get information out. But look, we've all done things that probably we wouldn't do now if we were in college. I mean, you're a college student. I don't want you to bring up your personal resume up on the air, but I'm sure it's not the greatest. And, these players just have, a bigger canvas to paint on because they're in the public spotlight as Division I athletes, especially those who play in the Big 5.
What was Jon Rothstein like as a college student at Ithaca?
What was Jon Rothstein like as a college student at Ithaca? Another thing we're going to have to talk about off the air. You and I are going to have to get together for a cheesesteak as long as you don't have your tape recorder on you.
Well, are you going to be down there tonight at the Pavilion?
I'm not. We are in the studio tonight on CBS Sports Network, but the way it looks right now, I will be in Philadelphia for a showdown between Temple and Canisius on the 19th, so I'm looking forward to it.
Well, hopefully we do see you there. We're talking to Jon Rothstein, CBS insider for college basketball. Does a phenomenal job. And, John, Scooty Randall has been so impressive this year. Have you been shocked that there's really been no rust and he's been getting an impressive amount of minutes so far coming off that knee surgery?
Well, the impressive thing about Scooty Randall is he's finding other ways to contribute when he's not scoring. Well, he's a more well-balanced player than he was 2 years ago, and that's a credit to Fran Dunphy. But, he's rebounding the ball better. I think he's become a better defensive player than he was 2 years ago. So he's got all the requisites to have a great senior year.
And he goes up against a similar guy in size tonight in Javon Pinkston.
Yeah, a little different, than Javon Pinkston, I think, in a lot of ways. I'm looking forward to actually the matchup between Pinkston and Rahlir Hollis Jefferson. That should be a good one.
We're talking to Jon Rothstein, and John, Temple has struggled up against the big man. I know Yeru's not the best offensive player in the nation, to say the least, but that presents a big-time challenge tonight for the Temple Owls down low.
Well, and, honestly, and I talked to Jay Wright about this, Mukhtar Yaru throughout the course of his career has proven that he is a better player with his, situation facing the basket versus being a post-up guy. I think Mukhtar Yaru is a lot better in pick-and-pop situations that he is posting up. It wasn't thought to be that way at the start of his Villanova career, but that's what happened.
You always, when you see Temple this year, they're up by 10, and then Anthony Lee gets in some foul trouble, and he finds a way to get to the bench. What does Anthony Lee have to do to stay on the court? Because right now, he looks like he's a step behind his game, and he's fouling a lot of people.
He's got to give them mileage at the offensive end of the floor. We've seen that in spurts so far this season, but it has to continue. Anthony Lee has to give Temple offense.
John, two more questions right before we let you go. Temple, this rivalry is going to get even bigger than just the Big 5 next year because they're also going to be in the Big East. And Villanova could be a school that you don't know where they're going to be ending up. You see teams keep on bolting the Big East Conference. How important is it for Mike Oresco, the Big East commissioner, to keep those Christian schools in the Big East to try to salvage some basketball life in this conference?
No, Catholic schools have to say it's the Big East. That's an easy question.
And before we let you go, they also play Duke as well this coming week. How do you preview that matchup going up against Coach K-Swat over at the Izod Center?
I only worry about the next thing that's in front of me, and that's the Villanova game. If we want to talk about Duke, we'll talk about it later in the week.
John, I appreciate the time. Thanks so much for coming on. Let's get you on again real soon.
Anytime, Zach. You sound great, man.
Jon Rothstein over there. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back to wrap things up right after these short messages.